Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
3, 2, 1.
4, 5, 6.
Hi, everybody. It's Ken Calvert, along with my dear friend, Father Joe Grimaldi, and welcome to the Father Joe podcast. Today's episode, if you will, is regarding the kids. We're going to talk about the kids, raising of the children.
Terrific. Great.
A couple comes in. One is Catholic. The other is Lutheran. She has been told in advance that the children must be raised Catholic. Is that true?
No.
Okay. Have you been presented with this before?
Many times.
All right. Well, then go ahead and tell me how it works.
The church does not prevent anybody from being married. I mean, marriage is a very important aspect of the Catholic Church, and so it would like to see people flourish in that area. When a person is a non-Catholic, they don't have to promise anything, but they do have to listen to the Catholic Party, who states that they are very much involved with their faith, and that they will do what they can to raise the children in that faith. The non-Catholic Party certainly has to listen, and that's it. But they do not have to agree. I think what's happening, there's a lot of misunderstandings in the church, and I think there's one that we've already discussed. When a person is divorced and not remarried, of course they can receive communion. However, some ministers, priests, whatever, will say that they're not allowed to receive communion. Well, they're not allowed to receive communion if they are divorced and remarried outside of the church. Well, this is a similar situation in a way, because the non-Catholic Party doesn't have to promise anything, but certainly has to listen to the Catholic Party, state that they will do what they can to raise the children Catholic. But it doesn't prevent them from being married, and that happens all the time. Hopefully, after they're married, they will meet each other's ministers or pastors and try to work out the best situation for the family to raise those children.
You don't want to confuse the kids, though. You don't want to put them in a situation where they feel like they're being pinballed back and forth, do you?
Not at all.
Yeah. Don't you have to protect the children from any sort of disagreements or otherwise? Just leave them alone and you two work it out as a couple.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to bring the children to meet the two pastors.
No, I don't mean that so much as in front of them discussing, you will go to the Catholic Church this Sunday, we'll go to the Lutheran Church next Sunday.
No. And I don't think that will be a good solution in any case.
Do you think it's done?
I don't think so. I think the partners sometimes go separately. So, for example, the non-Catholic Party will go to the non-Catholic Church. The Catholic Party will continue to go to the Catholic Church. That happens a lot. It's, in some cases, they feel that they're worshiping, and therefore together they will go to either one of the churches, despite the fact it's not what's supposed to be done within the church, whether it's Catholic or Protestant.
Isn't the mission the same? I mean, as long as you are taking time out to connect with your religious beliefs in whatever the
denomination,
isn't it worthy of saying, well done?
The reason for that is basically there's a certain community, there's a certain tradition that's within each church, and so you don't want to break that tradition for that individual. And so we encourage that individual to continue his practice of the faith in the Catholic Church if he is Catholic.
Sure.
And of course, if they're non-Catholic, whatever the denomination of the Protestant church might be, there are so many different Protestant churches, well, that they would stick to that community. But very often what happens is they do settle, whether it be with the blessings of the Catholic Church or not, they do settle in one or the other as a family. And you know what, that's not such a bad idea.
I agree with that. No, I agree with that.
Obviously, the wish and the goal might be that we would have them both go to the Catholic Church, but that's not the reality of life.
Hey, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride.
Yeah.
But it's about the children.
Exactly.
So when it comes to, in a perfect world, if a Catholic were to marry a non-Catholic, all things considered allowed in the Catholic Church, there should be a discussion about raising the children Catholic.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
And that's usually part of the preparation that the priest or one of the appointed staff members might discuss with the couple and as they get ready to be married. And I think that's a very important part, because religion can also be the breakup of a couple. I have come across just recently someone applying for annulment because the wife feels that he has, in quotes, too much religion, which is interesting. The individual is really putting himself into the arms of the Catholic Church to an nth degree, a high degree. Now, of course, I've only heard one side of the story, but basically the wife is not happy with that, and just, let me put it this way, I'm sure there might be other things involved too, but she would like to be divorced and doesn't want any part of his dedication, devotion, which she considers an obsession.
Yeah.
And speaking with the individual who is Catholic, he seems to be, and by the way, she is Catholic too, for that matter.
Yeah.
But he's not, in my mind anyway, in discussing things with him, doesn't seem to be obsessive in any way, but that's what she feels, and I haven't met her. So all I can say is that his story is that she doesn't like the idea that he is so obsessed and taken up with the practices of the Catholic Church.
Wow.
And this is a case where both are Catholics. So
I know.
And it does happen too with non-Catholic.
I've been doing this a long time, and I think of topics constantly, and I have never, ever heard that. I've never heard that before. We're talking about the kids being raised Catholic. We talk about the perimeter of that discussion. You bring that up, where she is asking for an annulment based on the fact that her husband is also a Catholic. She's a Catholic, but he's too T-O-O Catholic.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and very often, to get back to what we were saying, between the discussions between the Catholic and the non-Catholic party, very often that can cause a breakup in the marriage, because when people are in love and when people are ready to make a commitment to marriage, they sometimes fail to discuss the importance of certain situations that occur in a marriage. For example,
excuse me, I just want to say something because I want to stay on this topic for a second. We've just gone sideways here for a second, but I have to ask you this. Didn't she see that coming?
No, because it's a gradual thing.
All right.
If somebody who is a Catholic and seems to be practicing his faith in a normal situation,
right,
but isn't really gung-ho on every little thing that happens. And then somebody grows into that by doing whatever he or she can to become closer to the Catholic faith, that may seem like an exaggeration to the partner. And this is what happens there between the Catholic but the not-so-Catholic, if you want, person. So that's where the breakup...
The hyper-Catholic
if you want.
Versus the practicing Catholic.
Yeah, and he may not be a hyper-Catholic. He may just be...
A devout.
But the situation between a Catholic and a non-Catholic, if that's not discussed thoroughly beforehand, it can cause problems later on in the marriage.
Oh, I would think so.
And because it's one of these things which, well, for example, it's not so great that two people have to worship in different places on Sunday. At least that's what they feel, because we can do that. That's not a problem. It's just an hour in each church separately, but we can do that. Well, no, it doesn't work too well.
When they go from one church to another, back to another, do they get confused, and do they ask their parents, why 1, 2, not just one?
Right, that's another mess, too. And because each church is going to have its own activities.
Right.
And the kids would want to get involved in those activities.
Sure.
And
They're kids.
On. Yeah, and so if it is the Catholic party that's going to the Catholic church with the children, and then the mother or the other party who is non-Catholic goes on his or her own to the Protestant church, there's problems between not only the two partners, but also because of the kids.
Right. And I'm wondering if you ever hear from the parents who say the kids are now starting to ask those questions.
If you ever hear, you don't. Unfortunately, what happens is once the couple is married within the Catholic Church, very often you don't hear from them again for a long time. Probably when they're going to have their first child. That's when they become much more interested in religion.
So to reset, at the very beginning, if a Catholic marries a non-Catholic, it is considered part of the presentation to the couple that they at least consider and we would prefer that they be raised Catholic.
No, that's yes and no. What you're saying is true, but the conversation is between the priest and the Catholic party. The only thing that the non-Catholic party has to do is listen to see what that Catholic party is saying and doing. However, she or he, they do not have to agree on any of it. They're out of it completely. So it's the Catholic party that's asked, will you do what you can? Notice the wording.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the old days, and I'm talking about before 1970,
right?
It was not customary to be so understanding about it. And so that the non-Catholic party would have to sign that he or she would do the best that he could to raise the child Catholic. Well, now it's the Catholic party who has to sign or agree that he or she will do the best that he or she can to raise the children Catholic. Notice the wording. It's not a must, but
it's not a mandate.
No, it's not. It's strictly, I will do what I can. So it's an easier way to handle it.
At a certain stage, the kids are going to start to push back no matter what, correct?
Correct.
You see that all the time.
Yeah.
Although a lot of kids, especially me, for example, I remember that I went to St. Suzanne, then St. Bede's, and then or St. Bede, I guess I should say correctly, and then I went to Brother Rice High School, St. Hugo, and when I went to church, okay, you know that,
sure.
You know that. But there is a point where you peel off from mom and dad going to Mass, you going, I'll see you later, I'll make breakfast.
Correct.
All right, and they're adults. They can make
Yes.
that decision. When do you consider a kid capable of making that decision to decide whether or whether not to go to church?
Yeah, I don't think it's any specific age, okay? It's the way that young person has developed with the faith and the way he interacts or she interacts with the family. So it's not something that just is automatically happening at 17 or 18 or 19. It's a development that occurs, and it occurs gradually. In some cases, parents will simply say, listen, you have to go to Mass with us no matter what. If you're living in the house, you go with us. Well, that doesn't always work, because the individual, when he's old enough, is going to distance himself or herself from that situation. However, as long as they're living in the house and the parents demand it, well, they will come. They will come begrudgingly. Unfortunately.
Yeah, but you don't want somebody going to church begrudgingly.
No, and this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't think you do, but by the same token...
Because then you go into church going, I don't want to be here.
Exactly.
So you're not going to listen.
But that's the reality of the situation.
I know it is, yeah.
And,
and by the way, I've been there. So.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to mention, too, it's interesting. I don't think it's true only of the Catholic faith. It's true of a lot of different religions. People get religion at different stages of their lives, okay? Obviously, in the beginning, they grow in whatever faith they're practicing, and then as they grow older, they distance themselves away until they're ready to be married. And then, of course, the bride would always want the long aisle to walk down.
Right.
And therefore, they want to go to a church again. And if that means that they have to practice for a couple of months, they'll do it. But then again, they'll distance themselves until the first child comes along.
Right. Then they sort of reintroduce themselves to the Catholic Church.
Right. To raise and to baptize.
And to baptize, you bet.
And then after the baptism, there's a little bit of a distancing until confirmation. And that, of course, seals it all. And then they may not come again until it's time to be buried. And so I think that's the different stages.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But I want to warn people that, we cannot judge. And the good Lord has his own way of dealing with the individuals, the human beings. Just recently, the church has been concentrating on the prophet Hosea. Hosea was a wonderful, wonderful prophet, a colorful one at that. He was married to a woman who was completely unfaithful to him, and yet he constantly awaited her return. He loved her so much that he just would never give up on her no matter what. That symbolically represents God and us.
Wow.
You have Hosea as the God who always is welcoming all of his children and waiting no matter what. And we can go on and be unfaithful and so on and so forth forever. Then at some point we see the light and we return and he embraces us. The Father embraces us and loves us.
You've always been such a fascinating guy. You won't remember this. We were at a party. You and I were standing in the kitchen, and you said this to me. I asked you a question, and you said this. You said to me, relax. Ken, you're a good guy. God loves you. He's looking forward to meeting you. Not now, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not for a long time. Be a good guy. Continue to do and just be a good human. And I've always relied on that. I've always relied on what you told me. And that was many, many years ago. So I'm suggesting to you that a lot of people, I was one of those kids that said, okay, guys, see you when you get back. Yeah. I'm 17 now. I'm not going to Mass. Maybe if I don't know, I'm always, me, I'm always thinking outside the ropes here. But I'm thinking if maybe there was like a teenage Mass once in a while. Hey, you don't want to come? Check this one out. Maybe, make it a little more compelling, specific to the demographic. Just an idea that I have. And I also believe this, in summary, for me at least, the more compelling it is, the more people want to come back. You, my friend, are extremely compelling, and that's why they always come back.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, but I also appreciate you as a person. I want to mention there's a little bit of a comic retort to what you just said. The church where I help out a lot has a special Mass on Sunday night.
Yes, you do. You told me about this before.
And the music is outstanding.
Yeah.
But it's not the usual rock and roll type music.
What's wrong with rock and roll, man?
No, but it's not.
Never challenge rock and roll.
No, I'm not. But by the same token, it's kind of a classic folk music, maybe.
Right.
I don't know how to express my terms in the music. But anyway,
I'll teach you.
Interesting music that they play and sing. And it was meant to attract young people. Well, what's happening is the opposite. The older folks like it a lot, and so they're coming more often. And so, but the younger folks, well, they come, but they're so.
Again, putting a bow on this particular package, it is at the end of the day all about the children. Take care of the kids. And I think as long as you said to me a long time ago, you're a good person, God loves you. As long as you tell your kids every day, you're good guys, God loves you. Continue to do the right thing, guys. Do the right thing. It's not that hard. As a good friend of mine once said to me, it's not rocket surgery. And I said, Dave, you got that one wrong. Okay? Dave was the guy that also said, 6 of one, dozen of another. And I said, Dave, we're going to have a chat.
Yeah, we need to know those little sayings.
But I think we had a great chat today, don't you?
I agree. I thought it was a wonderful
we were a little all over the place with that, maybe, but that's okay. But
the children were always the center of it.
The children, it's all about the kids. Yeah. However, you gave me a great idea for another podcast, and I think the idea might be, is it possible for somebody to be too Catholic? Will you do it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. He wants to think about it. Well, that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Ken Calvert. This has been the Father Joe podcast, along with my dear friend, Father Joe.
Thanks a million. I look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Bye. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.